I was falsely accused by my jealous ex-girlfriend of infidelity, and she claimed to be pregnant in an attempt to trap me into a relationship. However, it eventually became clear that she was the one who had been unfaithful, and the child was not mine. I'm a 28-year-old man, and lately, I've been entangled in some intense and complicated drama. My former girlfriend, whom I'll refer to as Sarah, a pseudonym for privacy reasons, who is 26, and I ended our tumultuous relationship about 2 to 3 months ago after being together for 2 years. Our breakup was far from amicable, and recently, Sarah dropped a shocking revelation on me that has left me unsure about how to proceed. To provide some context, Sarah and I initially met through mutual friends at a lively party. We instantly connected and hit it off right from the start. For the first year of our relationship, everything seemed perfect. We shared similar hobbies and interests, enjoyed each other's company immensely, and even discussed building a future together. I work as a software engineer, and Sarah is a talented graphic designer. Both of us have demanding careers, but we always prioritized making time for one another. In the early stages, our relationship felt like it was straight out of a romantic comedy. We embarked on spontaneous weekend getaways, explored new and trendy restaurants, and spent leisurely Sundays lounging around, binge-watching our favorite TV shows. We introduced each other to our respective families, and everything seemed flawless. My parents adored her, and her parents appeared to be fond of me as well. However, as time passed, cracks began to appear in our seemingly perfect relationship. Initially, the issues were minor. Sarah would occasionally comment on the amount of time I spent working or express discomfort with the close friendships I had with some of my female friends. At first, I dismissed these concerns, thinking they were just typical relationship hurdles. But things quickly spiraled out of control. Sarah's jealousy and possessiveness intensified. She became upset whenever I spent time with my female friends, even in group settings. Her behavior escalated to the point where she would snoop through my phone without my knowledge, scrutinizing every text message or phone call I received. Despite my efforts to reassure her and alleviate her fears, nothing seemed to ease her suspicions. There was one particular incident that stands out vividly. I was out having dinner with my best friend Mike and his girlfriend. Sarah was supposed to join us but had to cancel at the last minute due to work commitments. Later that evening, she called me in tears, accusing me of lying about who I was with because she saw a Snapchat story from a mutual friend who happened to be at the same restaurant. It took me hours to calm her down and convince her that I wasn't being unfaithful. This incident was just the beginning of a series of events that would only worsen our relationship. Things took a turn for the worse when I started a significant project at work that required me to put in extra hours, often returning home late. My team included several women, and Sarah couldn't handle the situation. She began calling me multiple times throughout the day, showing up unannounced at my workplace, and even following me in an attempt to catch me in what she perceived as infidelity. I exhausted all possible measures to make her feel secure. I introduced her to my co-workers, shared my location with her, and even contemplated quitting the project. Yet, her constant accusations and lack of trust took a severe toll on my well-being. The breaking point came when Sarah accused me of cheating with a co-worker named Emily. Emily and I had been working closely on the project, often staying late to meet deadlines. Sarah discovered some work-related text messages between us and lost her composure completely. One evening, she showed up at my office while Emily and I were the only ones left working on a presentation. Sarah burst into the conference room, screaming and crying, accusing Emily of attempting to steal me away. She hurled a barrage of derogatory names at Emily and even threw a potted plant at me, narrowly missing me. Security had to intervene to escort her out, leaving me mortified and Emily understandably shaken. The following day, I had to explain the situation to my boss, who was understanding but warned me that such an incident couldn't happen again. Although Emily remained professional, the atmosphere between us became awkward, and some of my other co-workers started treating me differently, branding me as the guy with a crazy girlfriend. Realizing that I couldn't sustain the relationship any longer, I decided to end things. I took a day off work and went to Sarah's apartment to have the difficult conversation. I explained that her incessant lack of trust and constant accusations were unbearable and were negatively impacting not just our relationship but also my work and other friendships. She didn't react well. The conversation was filled with yelling, crying, and name-calling. Sarah accused me of never loving her, using her, and cheating on her throughout our relationship. In a particularly ugly moment, she threw some of my belongings out of her apartment window. As I left, she threatened to ruin my life and make me pay for breaking her heart. At the time, I dismissed her threats as nothing more than the heat of the moment, feeling relieved to finally be out of the toxic relationship. In the weeks that followed, Sarah made numerous attempts to contact me, through calls, texts, and even showing up at places she knew I frequented. Her messages ranged from desperate pleas for another chance to threats of spreading rumors that I was a cheating scumbag. I eventually blocked her number on all social media platforms, and she seemed to understand, backing off from her relentless pursuit. I focused on rebuilding my life, immersing myself in work, hitting the gym more regularly, and reconnecting with friends I had neglected during my relationship with Sarah. Gradually, things began to feel normal again. However, just last week, while I was enjoying a quiet Friday evening at home with a pizza and a beer, there was an unexpected knock at my door. Confused by the unexpected visitor, I opened it to find Sarah standing there, looking pale and exhausted as if she hadn't had a good night's sleep. Before I could respond, she blurted out, "I'm pregnant, and the baby is yours." I was taken aback, feeling a surge of disbelief. We had always been careful, and considering how our relationship had ended, I couldn't help but suspect that this might be another manipulative tactic on her part to draw me back in. I inquired about how far along she was, and she said she was about 2 months pregnant. My mind raced. 2 months ago, we were still together, but our relationship was already strained. I tried to recall the last time we had been intimate, but memories from that period were clouded by constant arguments and tension. Out of shock rather than genuine concern, I invited her inside. We sat in my living room, and I asked how she found out she was pregnant. She explained that she had missed her period, taken a home pregnancy test, and then confirmed it with her doctor. I told her I needed time to process this information and offered her a glass of water before retreating to the kitchen to clear my head. When I returned, I found her rummaging through my phone, which I had left on the coffee table. "What's going on?" I demanded, anger rising. She hastily tried to explain, "I was just checking the time." "No, you were snooping, just like you always do," I retorted. "I've had enough." I insisted that she provide proof before I could even begin to consider her claim. I requested a paternity test, which seemed to infuriate her. She accused me of not trusting her, which was ironic given our tumultuous history. She tearfully insisted that I should believe her, claiming that I would never lie about something so significant. But all I could think about were the countless times she had accused me of lying or cheating when I had done nothing wrong. I refused to accept her words without solid evidence, explaining that given how our relationship ended and her past behavior, I couldn't take her at her word. I told her I was open to discussing this further if she could provide medical proof of the pregnancy and agree to a paternity test. Sarah grew increasingly angry, hurling insults and calling me a coward for not stepping up and taking responsibility. She threatened to inform all our mutual friends and my family that I had abandoned her and our supposed child. Frustrated and overwhelmed, I stormed out, leaving her behind. Since then, I've been in turmoil, unable to focus at work, struggling with sleepless nights, and constantly feeling on edge. Part of me questions whether I'm being too harsh. What if she really is pregnant? But another part of me remains skeptical, fearing this might be another manipulation attempt. I've spent countless hours researching false pregnancy claims and paternity rights online, contemplating reaching out to Sarah. Yet, every time I consider it, I recall how toxic our relationship had become and how much happier I've been since our breakup. I haven't confided in anyone about this, neither my family nor my best friend Mike. I'm torn about what to do. Am I wrong for not believing her and insisting on proof? Should I have handled this differently? I keep replaying our conversations, searching for signs I might have missed. She did look different, tired and stressed, but couldn't that just be from the aftermath of our breakup? Why wait 2 months to inform me if she were truly pregnant? The threat of her spreading rumors weighs heavily on me, especially considering how devastated my parents would be if they believed I had abandoned a pregnant girlfriend. I've always taken pride in being a reliable and honest person, and the thought of being labeled a deadbeat father is terrifying. Yet, I can't accept her claims without question. Sarah's past behavior makes it impossible for me to trust her word alone, and the responsibility of bringing a child into the world is immense, especially given the current state of our relationship. I've considered reaching out to mutual friends to gather more information, but I'm wary of starting a rumor mill before knowing the facts. What if Sarah hasn't confided in anyone else yet? I don't want to be the one spreading false information if her claims turn out to be untrue. Additionally, a small part of me fears the possibility that it might actually be true, and I'm not prepared to be a father. Sarah and I had only discussed the idea of having children in the abstract, never considering it as an immediate reality. The thought of being tied to Sarah for the rest of my life, especially given how toxic our relationship had become, is overwhelming. I've even contemplated the unsettling possibility that the child might not be mine, considering how accusatory she was about my fidelity. Could she have been projecting her own infidelities onto me? This horrible thought forces me to consider every possible scenario, leaving me more confused and frustrated as I try to navigate this situation. I feel cornered, with no good options. If I reach out to Sarah for more information, am I risking further manipulation? If I ignore her, am I potentially abandoning my child? I'm paralyzed by indecision, as every choice seems fraught with potential pitfalls. I keep hoping she'll reach out again with more information or agree to my request for proof, but so far, there's been nothing but silence. Part of me wonders if I should simply accept whatever Sarah wants to keep the peace, but I know that's not the right approach. If there truly is a child involved, they deserve parents who are certain and committed, not someone who is just going along with it to avoid conflict. I've even thought about seeking legal advice, but that feels like such a drastic step. What if this is all a misunderstanding or a false alarm? Would involving lawyers at this stage be an overreaction? This entire situation has forced me to reevaluate our entire relationship. Were there signs I missed? Red flags I ignored? I thought I was being a good boyfriend by trying to reassure Sarah and prove my faithfulness, but perhaps I was merely enabling her behavior. Should I have ended things sooner? It's been a week since Sarah appeared at my door, and I feel no closer to a resolution. Each day that passes feels like a ticking clock. If she is indeed pregnant, decisions need to be made swiftly. But how can I make any decisions when I'm not even sure of the basic facts? I keep questioning whether I was wrong for insisting on proof or if I should have been more sympathetic and trusting. I'm genuinely unsure of what to do next, so I've turned to the internet for advice. I understand it's a complex situation and that you might not have all the details to make a judgment, but I'm at my wit's end. I need an outside perspective. Am I wrong for not believing my ex-girlfriend and demanding proof of her pregnancy, or is my caution justified given our history? What would you do in my shoes? Update 1 ***. Hello everyone, it's been about 3 weeks since my original post, and a lot has happened. I wanted to provide an update on the situation with Sarah and her claim of being pregnant. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who took the time to comment on my initial post. Your advice and perspectives have been invaluable in helping me gain some clarity. Many of you suggested that I should stand my ground and insist on proof, while others pointed out that I needed to be prepared for the possibility that Sarah might genuinely be pregnant. After a few days of no contact following our confrontation, Sarah reached out to me via text. She apologized for her outburst and acknowledged why I might have doubts. She agreed to provide medical proof of her pregnancy and consent to a paternity test once it was safe to do so. I felt a sense of relief that she was approaching the situation more rationally, but I remained cautious. We arranged to meet at a local coffee shop to discuss things further. I proposed a public place to avoid any potential drama and to keep the conversation civil. When we met, Sarah looked noticeably different from when she had shown up at my door. She appeared calmer and more composed. She handed me an envelope containing ultrasound images and a doctor's report confirming her pregnancy. According to the documents, she was indeed about 10 weeks pregnant, which matched the timeline she had previously provided. Seeing the ultrasound images stirred a whirlwind of emotions within me. It felt incredibly real, or at least that's how it seemed. We talked for hours. Sarah explained that she had discovered her pregnancy just a week before she confronted me at my place. She admitted that she was scared and unsure of how to tell me, especially given the state of our relationship. She recognized that her approach, showing up unannounced and making demands, was wrong and apologized sincerely. I listened attentively, trying to keep an open mind while also sharing my perspective. I explained how her past behavior had made it difficult for me to trust her words alone and how shocked and unprepared I felt upon receiving this news. We discussed our options thoroughly. Sarah expressed her desire to keep the baby but understood if I wasn't ready to be a father. She assured me that she wouldn't force me into anything but hoped that I would be involved in the child's life. I told her I needed time to process everything and that the paternity test was still necessary. She agreed to this, and we decided to wait until it was safe to perform a non-invasive prenatal paternity test, which can be done after the 7th week of pregnancy, though we opted for the 12th week to be certain. After our meeting, I felt somewhat reassured, but I was still overwhelmed by the situation. I decided it was time to inform my family and close friends about what was happening. I started with my parents, who were completely shocked. My mom was torn between excitement at the prospect of becoming a grandmother and concern over the circumstances, while my dad remained more skeptical, reminding me of how volatile my relationship with Sarah had been. Both of them supported my decision to get a paternity test and urged me to proceed with caution. I then confided in my best friend Mike, who was surprised but supportive. He offered to be there for me throughout the process, regardless of what I decided. He also suggested that I might want to consult a lawyer to understand my rights and responsibilities, just in case. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and I maintained contact through text messages. She kept me updated on her doctor's appointments and how she was feeling. It was strange navigating this new dynamic with someone I had such a complicated history with. About a week ago, things took an unexpected turn. Sarah called me in a panicked voice, saying she had started bleeding and was on her way to the hospital. Without hesitation, I rushed to meet her there. The next few hours were a blur of medical tests, anxious waiting, and intense conversations with doctors. Eventually, we received the heartbreaking news that Sarah had suffered a miscarriage. The doctor explained that miscarriages are unfortunately common in early pregnancies and that it wasn't anyone's fault. I was stunned. I hadn't even fully processed the idea of becoming a father, and now it was all over. Sarah was devastated, and seeing her in so much pain was incredibly difficult, despite our past issues. I stayed with her at the hospital until she was discharged. On the drive back to her place, we barely spoke. Once at her apartment, Sarah broke down and apologized again for how she had handled everything. She admitted that her past behavior, her jealousy and accusations, had been wrong, and losing the baby had made her realize how much she had messed things up between us. I listened, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Part of me was sad about the loss of a potential child, even though I had been unsure about becoming a father. Another part felt relief, which made me feel guilty, and there was still a lingering doubt in the back of my mind about whether everything had been genuine. I asked Sarah if she had told anyone else about the pregnancy, and she confirmed that she had not. She had been waiting to get past the first trimester before informing her family and friends, meaning only my parents, Mike, and I were aware of the situation. We spent hours that night discussing the pregnancy, our failed relationship, and what the future might hold for us. Sarah mentioned that she was going to start therapy to work on her trust issues and jealousy. She didn't ask to get back together or try to manipulate the situation, which I appreciated. I told her I needed time and space to process everything that had happened, and she agreed that it was probably best if we didn't see each other for a while. As I left her apartment that night, I felt drained but also somewhat relieved. The emotional roller coaster of the past few weeks had been exhausting. A week later, I'm still trying to make sense of everything that happened. I've been seeing a therapist to help me work through my feelings about the entire ordeal, which has been beneficial. Having a neutral party to talk to has made a significant difference. I've also been reflecting deeply on my relationship with Sarah and my own behavior during that time. While I still believe I was right to ask for proof of the pregnancy, I've realized there were moments in our relationship where I could have communicated better or been more understanding of her insecurities. Sarah and I have exchanged a few texts since that night. She's been attending therapy and says it's helping her understand her behavior better. She's apologized again for how she treated me during our relationship and for how she handled the pregnancy news. I'm uncertain about what the future holds for us, but I don't think we'll ever rekindle our romantic relationship. Too much has happened, and I believe we're better off apart. However, I'm open to the possibility of developing a friendship once we've both had time to heal and grow. Regarding whether the pregnancy was real, I honestly don't know. The medical documents seemed legitimate, and the doctors at the hospital confirmed that Sarah had miscarried. Given our history, there's still a part of me that wonders. For my own peace of mind, I've decided to accept that it was real and move forward from there. This experience has taught me valuable lessons about communication, trust, and how past actions can have long-lasting consequences on relationships. I'm striving to use these lessons to become a better person and a better partner in the future. My parents and Mike have been incredibly supportive throughout this entire ordeal. They've listened when I needed to talk, offered advice when I asked for it, and simply been there for me. I'm grateful to have such a strong support system. Reflecting on my original post, I can see how shocked and confused I was at the time. I still stand by my decision to ask for proof, but I also understand why Sarah might have reacted the way she did initially. Fear and hormones can cause people to act in ways they normally wouldn't. For those who asked in the comments of my original post, no, I haven't told any of our mutual friends about what happened. Sarah and I agreed that it was a private matter, and sharing the story would only lead to unnecessary drama and gossip. As for work, things have thankfully calmed down. The awkwardness with Emily and my other co-workers has mostly dissipated. I've immersed myself in my projects, which has been a welcome distraction from everything else going on in my life. I know this update might not be what some of you were expecting. Life rarely follows the neat, clear-cut scenarios we imagine. It's messy and complicated, often leaving us with more questions than answers. I'm still processing everything that's happened and expect it will take time before I fully come to terms with it all. But I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on my own growth and healing. Thank you all again for your advice and support. It truly helped me navigate this difficult situation. If anything significant changes, I'll be sure to post another update. For now, I'm just trying to move forward, learn from this experience, and focus on building a better future for myself. Update 2 ***. I had hoped to conclude my story with the last update, as it seemed to offer a somewhat okay ending. However, life often doesn't unfold as we expect, and about 2 months after my last update, I found myself facing even more complications. Despite the miscarriage and our minimal contact, Sarah and I occasionally texted, mostly updates on her therapy progress and my polite responses. I was still processing everything and striving to move on with my life. Work was going well. I had thrown myself into a new project which served as a welcome distraction. Relationships with my co-workers, including Emily, had pretty much returned to normal, and I was even starting to consider dating again, though I hadn't gone on any actual dates yet. Then, about 3 weeks ago, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. When I answered, a man's voice asked if I was my name. Upon confirming, he introduced himself as Robert and said we needed to talk about Sarah. My stomach dropped. I asked who he was, and he revealed that he was Sarah's ex-boyfriend. Apparently, they had dated for a few weeks during a period when Sarah and I were on a break. I remembered that break. It was after a particularly bad fight, and we'd spent about 2 months apart. Robert mentioned that he had recently learned about the pregnancy and miscarriage from Sarah and had some information he felt I should know. We agreed to meet at a local bar the following evening. The next 24 hours were filled with anxiety as I contemplated the possibilities. Part of me didn't want to go or know whatever Robert had to say, but I knew I had to face this head on. When I met Robert at the bar, I was surprised by how normal he seemed. He was around my age and appeared to be a decent guy. He bought us both a beer and got straight to the point. Sarah lied to you. He continued, the baby wasn't yours, it was mine. It felt like a punch to the gut. Robert explained that he and Sarah had continued seeing each other intermittently even after she and I got back together. The last time they had been together was about a week before Sarah and I definitively ended our relationship. Robert showed me text messages between him and Sarah dating back months, where Sarah expressed her unhappiness with me and admitted she was only staying in the relationship because she was afraid of being alone. There were also messages from the time she discovered she was pregnant, showing her panic and uncertainty about what to do. As I scrolled through the messages, feeling increasingly nauseous, I came across an especially angry one from Sarah to Robert, dated just a few days before she had shown up at my door claiming to be pregnant with my child. The message read, I have a plan. I'm going to tell my name. The baby is his. He makes good money, and he's always wanted kids. He'll take care of us. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Not only had Sarah cheated on me, but she had also deliberately tried to trap me into raising another man's child. Robert felt guilty after the miscarriage and believed I had a right to know the truth. I thanked him for telling me, although a part of me wished I could go back to not knowing. We finished our beers in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. Before leaving, Robert apologized for his part in the entire mess. I couldn't bring myself to hate or blame him, as I appreciated his honesty. After Robert left, I sat at the bar for a long time, trying to process what I had just learned. The bartender must have sensed something was wrong because he offered me another beer on the house. I went home that night feeling numb, unable to sleep or eat. The next day, I called in sick to work, needing time to think. I spent the day oscillating between anger and disbelief. How could Sarah have done this? How could she lie so easily and thoroughly, and how could I have been so blind? I reflected on all the times Sarah had accused me of cheating, her jealous outbursts, and invasions of privacy. It all seemed like projection. She was the one cheating all along. After a day of stewing in my thoughts, I knew I had to confront Sarah. I couldn't let this betrayal go unanswered. I texted her asking if we could meet, and she agreed, likely thinking it was just another check-in. We met at the same coffee shop where she had previously shown me the ultrasound pictures. As soon as she saw me, she realized something was wrong. Before she could say anything, I laid out everything, my meeting with Robert, the text messages, and everything I had learned. For a moment, she appeared ready to deny it, but then she began to cry, apologizing for never intending for things to escalate this far. I asked her how she could do this to me, how she could lie about something so significant and attempt to trap me into raising a child that wasn't mine. She admitted she had been scared and desperate, believing that if she could get me to accept the baby as mine, everything would work out. I told her that what she had done was unforgivable. She had not only betrayed my trust in the worst possible way, but had also been willing to bring an innocent child into her web of lies. Sarah begged for forgiveness, saying she would do anything to make things right, but I knew there was no way to mend this broken trust. I told her that I never wanted to see or hear from her again and that I hoped she would continue with therapy because it was clear she needed help. I got up and walked out, ignoring her pleas for me to stay and talk. The next few days were a blur. I informed my parents and Mike about what had happened. They were furious on my behalf. My mom wanted to call Sarah and give her a piece of her mind, but I asked her not to. I just wanted to be done with the whole situation. I also decided to tell a few of our mutual friends, knowing that Sarah might try to manipulate the story and wanting to get ahead of it. I didn't share all the details, simply stating that Sarah had cheated on me and lied about the pregnancy. Most of them were unaware of the drama and were shocked but supportive. One friend admitted that she had suspected Sarah might be cheating, mentioning that she had seen Sarah with another man a few times but wasn't sure if it was anything serious. She apologized for not telling me sooner, and while I was hurt that she hadn't said anything, I understood why she hadn't wanted to get involved at work. I finally confided in Emily, who was incredibly understanding and supportive. She admitted that she had always thought Sarah seemed off but hadn't wanted to say anything negative about my girlfriend. Through this ordeal, Emily and I have grown closer, and I'm beginning to see her in a new light. Who knows, maybe something will develop between us in the future. As for Sarah, I haven't heard from her since our confrontation at the coffee shop. I've blocked her number and all her social media accounts. A mutual friend informed me that Sarah had moved back in with her parents and was continuing with therapy. Part of me hopes she gets the help she needs, but mostly, I just want her out of my life for good. Reflecting on our relationship, I can now see how toxic it was. Sarah's jealousy and insecurity weren't just annoying traits, they were indicative of deeper issues. I realize now that I should have ended things long before I did. I've been contemplating why I stayed with Sarah for so long and why I tolerated her behavior. I think part of it was fear of being alone, another part was the belief that I could fix her and make her trust me if I just tried hard enough, and a part I'm ashamed to admit was that I enjoyed feeling needed, even if it was in an unhealthy way. One of the hardest aspects to accept has been the loss of the future I thought I might have had, even though I was uncertain about the pregnancy. I had started to imagine what it would be like to be a father, only to have that vision ripped away, only to discover it was all a lie. It's been tough, but I'm also relieved that I uncovered the truth before it was too late. I believe that now, I'm not tied to Sarah for the rest of my life. I've been focusing on myself these past few weeks. I've gotten back into running, something I used to love but had neglected during my relationship with Sarah. I'm reading more, spending time with friends, and even considering taking a solo trip somewhere. Work has been a great distraction. I've immersed myself in the new project, and my boss has hinted that a promotion might be in my future if I keep up the good work. It's nice to have something positive to focus on. As for dating, I'm not ready to jump back into anything serious just yet. I need time to heal and learn to trust again, but I'm not closing myself off to the possibility of meeting someone new when the time is right. Through this entire experience, I've learned a lot about myself, relationships, and trust. I've realized the importance of trusting my instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. To those who followed my story from the beginning, thank you for your support and advice. Your words helped me see things more clearly when I was too close to the situation to do so myself. If there's one thing I want people to take away from my story, it's that trust is precious, and once it's broken, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. Don't stay in a relationship where you're constantly doubting your partner or yourself. And if someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. As for me, I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are harder than others, but overall, I'm doing okay. I'm looking forward to the future, whatever it may hold, and I know that whatever challenges come my way, I'm strong enough to face them. This will be my final update on this situation. It's time for me to close this chapter of my life and move on. Thank you all again for your support throughout this crazy journey. Here's to new beginnings and better days ahead. Update 3 ***. It's been about 10 months since my last update, and honestly, I didn't think I'd be writing another one. I believed the Sarah chapter of my life was closed for good, but life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. After everything that happened with Sarah and the revelation about her cheating, I focused on moving forward with my life. I threw myself into work, continued with therapy, and started rebuilding my social life. Things were going well, all things considered. The promotion my boss had hinted at came through, and I'm now leading my own team on a major project, which has been both challenging and rewarding. Emily and I have been working closely together, and I have to admit, there's definitely been some flirting between us. We haven't acted on it yet, mostly because I've been cautious about getting involved with a coworker after everything that happened with Sarah, but the attraction is undeniable. Then, about a month ago, everything changed again. I was at the grocery store one evening, just picking up some items for dinner, when I literally ran into Robert, the same Robert who had revealed the truth about the baby. We both stood there for a moment, shocked by the coincidence. Robert then asked if I wanted to grab a coffee and talk. I hesitated at first. Did I really want to revisit all of that? But curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed. Over coffee, Robert filled me in on what had been happening with Sarah. Apparently, after our confrontation, Sarah had a complete breakdown. She quit her job, moved back in with her parents, and had been undergoing intensive therapy. Robert had maintained contact with her parents, feeling somewhat responsible for her state. What he revealed next was staggering. Sarah had recently discovered that she was pregnant again, and this time, it was definitely Robert's child. They weren't back together, but he was planning to co-parent with her. I sat there, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. Why should Sarah be allowed to have a baby when she had lied about the last one? However, another part of me felt a sense of relief that I wasn't in Robert's position, tied to Sarah for the rest of my life. Robert seemed genuinely excited about becoming a father, though he admitted he was nervous about co-parenting with Sarah given their history. He mentioned that Sarah had made significant progress in therapy, addressing her trust issues and manipulative behavior, but he remained cautious. Before we parted ways, Robert hesitated and then added, "There's something else you should know. Sarah's been asking about you. She wants to apologize in person for everything she did." I told Robert that I needed to think about it, but I wasn't making any promises. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about what Robert had told me. I discussed it with my therapist, trying to sort out my feelings. On one hand, I had no obligation to see Sarah or hear her out. What she had done was unforgivable, and I had every right to keep her out of my life. On the other hand, a small part of me wondered if hearing her apology might provide some closure. After much deliberation, I decided to meet with Sarah. I figured it would be better to face this head-on rather than constantly wondering, what if? I asked Robert to arrange the meeting, making it clear that this was a one-time thing. We agreed to meet at a park on a Saturday afternoon, choosing a public place for neutrality and to avoid any potential drama. When Sarah approached, I was struck by how different she looked. She seemed smaller, somehow less confident. Sarah sat down on the bench next to me, maintaining a respectful distance. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then, she took a deep breath and began, "I know nothing I say can undo what I did, but I want you to know how deeply sorry I am for everything, the cheating, the lies, and trying to trap you with a baby that wasn't yours. It was inexcusable, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." She went on to explain that she had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which helped explain, but did not excuse, some of her past behavior. She talked about the intensive therapy she'd been undergoing, learning to manage her emotions and insecurities in healthier ways. "I'm not telling you this to ask for forgiveness," she said. "I know I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I understand how much I hurt you and that I'm doing everything I can to ensure I never treat anyone that way again." After she finished speaking, I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I told her that while I appreciated her apology, I couldn't forgive her, at least not yet. The wounds were still too fresh, and the betrayal was too deep. However, I did encourage her to continue with her therapy and work on becoming a better person, especially now that she was going to be a mother. Sarah nodded in understanding, thanked me for listening, and expressed genuine happiness for my recent promotion and my budding relationship with Emily. She wished me well, acknowledging that I deserved to be happy. As she walked away, I sat on that bench for a long time, processing everything that had just happened. It wasn't the dramatic confrontation I might have imagined. Instead, it felt like the quiet closing of a door, the final end of a chapter in my life. In the weeks since that meeting, I've done a lot of thinking about Sarah, our relationship, and everything that transpired. I've realized that while I can't forgive her actions, I can let go of the anger I've been holding on to. It's not about excusing what she did, but about freeing myself from the negative emotions that have been weighing me down. Regarding my personal life, things have been looking up. Remember the flirtation I mentioned with Emily? Well, about a week after my meeting with Sarah, Emily and I decided to address the underlying tension. We agreed to give dating a chance, with the understanding that we'd keep things professional at work and be open with our boss to avoid any potential conflicts of interest. It's still early days, but being with Emily feels different from any relationship I've had before. There's a level of trust and open communication that I never experienced with Sarah. We're taking things slow, both of us aware of the potential complications of dating a coworker, but so far, it's been really positive. My friends and family have been incredibly supportive of this new development. Mike even joked that he knew Emily and I would end up together from the moment he heard about the crazy ex-girlfriend incident at the office. My parents are simply happy to see me happy again. Work continues to go well, the project I'm leading is on track, and my team has really come together. It's satisfying to see something I've worked so hard on starting to bear fruit. As for Sarah and Robert, I've decided to maintain my distance. Robert sends me occasional updates, which I appreciate, but I've made it clear that I don't want to be involved in their lives. I wish them well, especially for the sake of their child, but that's a chapter of my life that's firmly closed. To those who have followed my story from the beginning, thank you for your support and advice. Your words helped me more than you know, especially during those dark days right after I uncovered Sarah's deception. I don't know what the future holds. My relationship with Emily is still new, and who knows where it will lead. My career is on an upward trend, but there will undoubtedly be challenges ahead. Life is unpredictable, but for the first time in a long while, I'm excited about the future. I feel like I've been given a fresh start, a chance to apply all the lessons I've learned and build a life that's truly fulfilling. This will be my final update on this situation. It's time to close this chapter for good and focus on the future. Thank you all again for your support throughout this crazy journey. Here's to new beginnings, hard-earned wisdom, and the endless possibilities that lie ahead.